All right, we've got a quick but really important security brief for you today, especially if you're an OpenAI API user. There's been a security incident involving one of their vendors, so let's get right into what happened and what it all means for you. So here's the bottom line right up front. A third-party vendor that OpenAI uses, a company called Mixpanel, had a security breach. This means a small amount of data from some API users got exposed. Now, the key thing to get right away is this. OpenAI's own systems were not breached. This is a super important distinction. Okay, so let's dig into the official security bulletin to see exactly how this all went down.
All right, check out this timeline. On November 9th, Mixpanel finds out someone got into their systems. But, and this is a big but, they don't tell OpenAI until November 25th. That's a 16-day gap, which is, pretty long time. To their credit, once OpenAI got the news, they moved fast. They went public with the announcement the very next day, on the 26th.
So let's just hammer this point home, because it's really the most critical piece of this whole story. Was OpenAI's own infrastructure compromised? No, absolutely not. The breach was entirely contained to their vendor, Mixpanel. This wasn't an attacker inside OpenAI's house. It was an issue at a partner's location. That distinction really defines the scope of this whole thing. Okay, so that brings us to the million-dollar question, right? What information actually got out? And just as important, what stayed safe? So the stuff that was exposed is basically user profile and analytics data. We're talking names, email addresses, a rough idea of your location, like city, state, country, and technical details like your operating system and browser. Also things like which website sent you there and some user IDs. It's pretty much the kind of standard info websites collect for analytics. Now for the good news, and this is really good news. The most sensitive stuff, the stuff we all worry about, is confirmed to be completely safe. We're talking no passwords, no API keys, no payment info, no government IDs, none of that was touched. And to go a step further, none of your actual API prompts or the data you use with the API was exposed either. Oh, and if you're just a ChatGPT user, this didn't affect you at all. All right, so now we know what happened and what data was involved. So how did OpenAI react when they got the news? Let's look at the steps they took right away. Their response was honestly pretty fast and to the point. First thing they did, boom, they completely cut ties with Mixpanel. Then they immediately started digging into the exposed data to see the full picture. At the same time, they kicked off the process of emailing every single user who was impacted. And finally, they're taking a hard look at all their vendors to tighten up security across the board. Okay, let's get to the part that really matters to you personally. What should you be doing right now to make sure your account stays safe? So since your password and API key are safe, you might be thinking, what's the big deal? What's the actual risk we need to be watching out for? It all comes down to one thing, phishing, and specifically, very convincing phishing. Think about it. A scammer now knows your name, your email, and that you're an OpenAI API customer. They can use that to create an email that looks incredibly legit, trying to trick you into giving up your password or other sensitive info. So the main takeaway for you is to just be extra vigilant. If you get an email out of the blue that claims to be from OpenAI, be suspicious. Always double-check the sender's email address. And just burn this into your brain. OpenAI will never, ever ask you for your password or your API keys in an email. Period. This whole thing naturally leads to another big security topic. Even though passwords weren't involved here, it's a great reminder to ask yourself, do you have multi-factor authentication set up on your account? The answer to that is a huge, flashing lights, yes. Seriously, turning on multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is probably the single best thing you can do to lock down any online account. It's like adding a deadbolt to your front door. Even if someone steals your key, your password, they still can't get in. It's just non-negotiable security best practice these days. And we'll leave you with this to think about. This whole situation really shines a spotlight on a massive challenge in our modern tech world, right? Companies like OpenAI depend on this huge network of other services to operate. So when something goes wrong with one of those partners, who's ultimately on the hook for keeping your data safe? It's a tricky question and something we're all going to be dealing with more and more. Thanks for tuning in.